Most of us in modern life are not particularly familiar with the need to bank a fire and to maintain it and to keep the embers burning, and then when necessary, flame it, fan it into flames again, to bring it up to a more of a roaring fire. Some may still have some fireplaces or stoves, but most of us, dependent on central heating, are a little less connected to the need that is associated with living that way. I remember it mostly from when I was camping as a Boy Scout. And we did all of our cooking on hardwood fires, so we'd learned pretty quickly it was a lot easier to maintain some embers and to maintain the fire and keep it going and fan it when necessary than to start from cold ash once again. But this image of knowing that there is something there and that we fan it and add the oxygen needed for combustion to bring it back to full flame, that is the image that we see in St. Paul's letter to Timothy. He is speaking them to Timothy and to the people, not about fire, but about faith. In some sense, it's a response to the prophet Habakkuk, our first reading today, who is saying, "Lord, where are you? Bad things happen here. Where are you?" In our world, we can look around and say that we still experience warfare in Ukraine. We know that the people of Gaza are experiencing untold hardship. We don't even speak of the 100,000 Nigerian Christians who've died in the last few years. We know that there is difficulty and hardship happening around our world. We know that here in Ireland, we suffer with homelessness and the difficulty of getting homes for people who aren't quite homeless, but drug addiction and other issues that seem at times insurmountable and overwhelming. Lord, where are you? The prophet Habakkuk says. But to St. Timothy, Paul says, I'm reminding you to fan into flame that gift God gave you. He reminds Timothy what they received was not a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. He reminds them to take that which you have been given and do what you can. For isn't that the reality of our lives? No one of us is going to be able to tackle any of the issues I've mentioned or any of the other issues confronting our society and our world by ourselves. No one of us is going to solve the conflict in Ukraine, bring peace to Gaza, settle the issue of homelessness and the difficulty of finding homes in Ireland. But each of us can fan the flame of faith in our heart and see and do something for someone right in front of us. I know a young woman who's now a medical doctor. When she was in secondary school, she lived in a physically and emotionally abusive home, and at one point, once again, had been driven out. And she was at a friend's house. And that friend had a kind of a grumpy, gruff father who never said much. But he was aware of what was happening in this girl's life. And as it drew on towards dinner time, he simply said to his daughter, put another plate on the table, and said to the girl, you're staying for dinner. And then later in the night, he said to his daughter, make up the extra bed in your room. And he said to the girl, you're staying here. He never discussed much about why he was doing what he was doing. He never actually said it was how long it was going to be for, but for weeks and months and years, this girl found a supportive home and a supportive parent who guided her through university and med school, and eventually she became a doctor. And this man stood at her graduation in tears for what this young girl had become. She would say the greatest support in her life was this grumpy old man who never said much, but just gave her everything she needed. How do we fan the flame of faith in our heart? What need might be standing before us that we could answer, and we could uproot the mulberry and plant it in the sea? There might be a child who lives down the street from you, whose parent or parents work and comes home every day to an empty house. Maybe it's an hour or two of tea and homework until a parent gets home. Maybe it's someone that you see who is hurting and simply needs a kind moment. A homeless person you see regularly, not that you would necessarily give them money or invite them into your home, but perhaps a cup of tea and sitting on a bench and hearing and listening to someone in need. The challenge for each of us isn't to identify a need, really. It's to see it for what it is and to recognize that within us we have a spirit that is not of timidity, but it is a spirit of power and love. And that we might be able to do something that transforms the world in just one little way. Oh Lord, where are you? He's here. Let us fan the flames of faith in our hearts, in our families, in this community. And may that fire of faith burn brightly, bringing heat and warmth and light to the world.